A man once spent 438 days alone in the Pacific Ocean. He drifted more than 6,700 miles. He ate raw fish, turtles, and seabirds caught with his bare hands. He drank rainwater and turtle blood. He watched his crewmate die. He talked to the body for 6 days before putting it in the water. Then he drifted alone for almost another year. When he finally reached land, doctors said he was in surprisingly good health. What kept José Salvador Alvarenga alive is not what most people assume, and it is directly relevant to anyone who has ever been on a boat, a ferry, a cruise ship, or a beach. It is the morning of November 18th, 2012. José Salvador Alvarenga, 35, leaves the fishing village of Costa Azul on the Pacific coast of Mexico in a 25-foot open fiberglass skiff. His usual partner backed out. His replacement is Ezequiel Córdoba, 22, a day worker with almost no ocean experience. They plan a 30-hour trip. They carry enough ice to store their catch and enough fuel for the run. A storm is coming. Alvarenga knows this. He has weathered storms before. 3 days in, the storm is not passing. Waves flood the engine. The communication system goes down. Their supplies wash overboard. By the time the weather clears, they have no motor, no radio, and no flares. They can see aircraft flying overhead. The planes cannot see them. A 25-foot boat in the open ocean is invisible from the air without a signal. Alvarenga radios a distress call before the system fails. The boat's owner, Cesar Castillo, receives it and contacts the Mexican Coast Guard. Search planes go out, and they find nothing. The search is called off. We will come back to what happens next. First, you need to understand what is actually trying to kill you out there, because most people get it wrong. The ocean does not kill you with sharks. It does not kill you by flipping your boat. According to maritime survival research from the University of Portsmouth, the primary killers in ocean survival situations, in order, are cold water, dehydration, and psychological collapse. Not drowning, not predators. Cold water is fastest. A person without thermal protection in water below 15 degrees Celsius loses the ability to swim within 30 minutes. But in the warm equatorial Pacific, where Alvarenga drifted, water temperature runs above 27 degrees Celsius. This is the reason he survived long enough for everything else. Geography was his first piece of luck. Dehydration is the main threat once temperature is controlled. The body needs a minimum of 400 milliliters of fresh water per day to avoid organ damage. The ocean surrounds you with water that will actively kill you. Seawater contains 3.5% salt. Your kidneys can only process concentrations up to 2%. Every cup of seawater you drink requires your body to produce more urine than it gained. You dehydrate faster than if you drank nothing. Alvarenga survived not by finding a clever workaround, but by waiting for rain and collecting every drop. He went days without water. The rainstorms that found his small boat in the Pacific were not luck. They were the only reason he is alive. The third killer is the one researchers at the University of Portsmouth describe as the most underestimated psychological collapse. People stranded at sea who give up do not die because they stop eating or drinking. They stop eating and drinking because they give up. Survival in extended maritime situations correlates directly with having a specific reason to stay alive. Alvarenga thought about his daughter in El Salvador. He prayed. He talked to Córdoba's body. He played games with the seabirds he caught. These were not symptoms of madness. They were the mechanisms that kept him functioning. Now back to the Pacific, somewhere west of Mexico, drifting. Córdoba died after roughly 10 weeks at sea. He ate a seabird that contained a small poisonous snake in its stomach. He became sick, refused food and water, and starved. Alvarenga had made a promise to Córdoba's mother that he would not eat the body. He kept Córdoba with him for 6 days, talking to him, before placing him in the water. Alvarenga drifts alone for another 11 months. He tracks time by counting the phases of the moon. He watches container ships pass without stopping. He develops a routine. He catches fish and birds in the morning, collects water when it rains, and shelters inside the overturned styrofoam cooler during the heat of the day. On January 30th, 2014, he counts his 15th lunar cycle and sees land for the first time. He swims to shore on Tile Islet, part of Ebon Atoll in the Marshall Islands. 2 local residents, Emi Libokmeto and Russell Laikidrick, find him on the beach, clutching a knife, naked, and shouting in Spanish. His journey has covered between 6,700 and 8,900 miles. Researchers at the University of Hawaii later modeled the ocean currents and confirm his route is entirely plausible. On October 12, 1983, Tammy Oldham Ashcraft, 23, was sailing a 44-foot yacht named Hazana across the Pacific with her fiancé, Richard Sharp, 34. They were delivering the boat from Tahiti to San Diego, a 4,000-mile passage. 3 weeks in, Hurricane Raymond, a Category 4 storm, changed course and found them. Sharp sent Ashcraft below deck. She heard him shout. The boat capsized. She hit her head on the cabin wall and lost consciousness. When she woke up 27 hours later, she was alone. Sharp's safety line dangled empty over the stern. The radio, navigation system, and engine were destroyed. The masts had snapped off. The cabin was half flooded. Ashcraft pumped the cabin dry by hand. She built a makeshift sail from a broken pole and a storm jib. The only tools she had left were a sextant and a watch. She navigated 1,500 miles to Hilo, Hawaii, by measuring the angle of the sun against the horizon and calculating her position on paper. She ate canned sardines and fruit cocktail. She arrived 41 days later. A Japanese research vessel spotted her drifting near the harbor entrance. She later said that stopping to cry was something she could not afford. She was losing water she could not replace. That sentence contains everything you need to know about surviving at sea. The body in distress loses water through every available channel. Crying is not a trivial expenditure in a dehydration scenario. Ashcraft's decision to suppress grief and focus on navigation was not an emotional choice. It was a physiological one. This means that the skill most relevant to ocean survival is not swimming, not fishing, and not knot tying. It is the ability to manage your own mindset under conditions designed to make that impossible. Every resource your body spends on panic, grief, or despair is a resource it cannot spend on staying alive. This also means that the objects most worth carrying on any ocean vessel are not emergency flares alone, though those matter. They are a sextant, or a GPS device that works without signal, a means of collecting rainwater, and enough stored food to keep the brain functional while the other systems are maintained. Alvarenga had the fishing skills. Ashcraft had the navigation tools. Both had the psychological architecture that refused to stop. José Salvador Alvarenga was found on a remote beach, talking in a language the islanders had never heard, holding a knife he had used to stay alive for 438 days. Doctors in the Marshall Islands said his vital signs were good. He had mild anemia. He had no scurvy because turtle and bird meat contains enough vitamin C when eaten raw. He was thin. He was alive. He had spent more time adrift in the open ocean than any documented person in history. He later said the hardest moment was not the hunger or the thirst. It was the afternoon he stopped believing a boat would come. He stayed anyway.